Okay, so let's talk about 3 reasons why you would probably want to go with an MLS Realtor versus a VLS Realtor if you're selling your home. And one really big tip if you are a buyer, I'll share at the end. But 3 things that you want to keep in mind when listing your home. And of course, there's always going to be pros and cons to both worlds. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, in the Villages, Florida, we have VLS and MLS. VLS is the Villages Listing Services, or you could refer to them as POV, Property of the Villages. They are private, they work privately. They are not part of the NAR, the National Association of Realtors, and therefore, when your home gets listed, you are not going to be on the MLS, the Multiple Listing Services. Why does that matter? It's a big deal because you are not going to be part of the whole interweb. You're not going to be out there on the internet. When you hire an MLS realtor, you're hiring local experts with global reach. So can a VLS agent be a local expert? Absolutely. Most of them are, quite frankly, but do they have that global reach? Not in the same way. So is the Village's website out there on the internet? Yes, but you're not going to be able to reach through the MLS. Sites like Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com. So that's really, really important. And when I talk about local experts, what does that mean? So the realtors here in the Villages, typically they work here, they live here, they are boots on the ground. One of the really, really cool things that our brokerage does, Realty Executives in the Villages, we do a caravan literally every week, so every Wednesday, and we get on a bus, we go look at all of our new listings together, and we critique them. We give each other feedback on pricing, on how all the little details, curb appeal, interior appeal, all of those things that are really, really important. So it's like getting another extra 40 to 50 set of eyeballs on that particular seller's listing. So it's really, really good. And not only that, but again, you're gathering your boots on the ground, you're hanging out together and professionally coming together. So you're getting advice and strategies, and you're also talking about, literally, I have a listing, I have a buyer, I have this going on. And a lot of times we can match up buyers and sellers just by physically coming together. So that's a really, really powerful aspect. So you want to have someone who is a local, expert, and they're going to be able to globally reach out. And again, that's through the MLS. I'm literally closing a deal on Monday, and our buyer came from an agent who reached out to us from California. So they got a referral fee for referring this buyer. And that's very, very typical. A lot of MLS realtors will do that. Will hand each other different buyers, sellers, that kind of thing throughout the country. So you literally have not only the US but international too. So the second thing is, when you're hiring an MLS realtor, you are hiring someone who's not focused on new builds. So we're very grateful for the Villages and the new builds and all of that, but at the end of the day, they are marketing for the new builds. They're working essentially for the builder, and they, of course, they want to sell your home. Yes, but I'm going to share this story with you, and this is hopefully going to show you what I'm talking about. So I have a listing right now. I'm selling this sweet man's house, and he had it listed with a Villages agent for over 180 days. It did not sell. And he said there just wasn't a lot of traffic. They were doing open houses once a month. And he said he was giving leads to, he knows a lot of people up in New York or a few people who have migrated and come down to the Villages. And one friend in particular, we'll call her Jane. So he wanted to give Jane the information on his home. He connected Jane with Billy Bob, his agent. We'll just use that name. So Billy Bob and Jane got connected. He wanted them to, he wanted Jane to be able to see the house. He ended up, Billy Bob did not only not market the house to Jane, but sold her a new build, new construction. And when the seller connected with Jane later, come to find out that Billy Bob did not even show the listing, did not even show Jane the home, so didn't even give the chance and just focused on the new builds. So why would an agent do that, right? Why would an agent not even show their own listing? Well, maybe it wasn't in her criteria. I don't know. But that's a really, really big thing to consider if their main goal is not your main goal, right? It needs to really resonate, needs to really line up. So we are not going to be pushing the new builds. We only market and sell the pre-loved homes, the pre-owned homes. And the last thing on the seller side that I want to bring up is commissions. So this is a big deal, and I want to talk about this. I know a lot of people don't like to talk about commissions. I have no problem talking about it all day long, and it's actually really fun. So in commissions, in the commission world with a realtor, so typically, I can't give you exact numbers because every deal is different. It's always negotiable. But typically, your broker is going to charge 5 to 6%. Now, maybe they're charging a little bit more. I don't know. Maybe they offer special services like staging or junk removal, or different things like that. So there's lots of little, moving parts of every different deal. But let's just say in a typical transaction, it's 5%. So you're going to list your home, it's going to be 5%, and typically it's going to be split down the middle. The brokerage is going to give 2.5 to whoever, brings the buyer, whoever the buyer broker is. And who knows, it could be themselves, and hopefully your agent is going to work their tail off to get both sides, right? So typically your agent is working for 2.5% or maybe more, again, if they can get both sides of the deal. Now, in a VLS, it's a little bit different world. They are working for the villages. They are not, they work independently, but not in the same way. So it is a 5%. So the villages will charge 5%. And the way they divvy it up is 1.5 to the listing agent, 1.5% to the buyer agent, and then 2% goes to the house. So 2% goes to the villages. So why does that matter? It doesn't really, but it does. Think about this. If someone is making 1.5% versus 2.5% or possibly more, they're going to give a little more oomph, a little more desire to sell your home. So something to really, really keep in mind. And I'll share this quick story. I met with some really sweet buyers the other day. We sat down and had a great talk and conversation about their goals, their needs. And they said that they were in an open house the other day. They've just been hopping into open houses, and they went into an open house of a village's listing. He said, the guy said that the person hosting did not even get up off of their seat to greet them. Basically just said hi real briefly, and papers are over there. So get up and go, get your own stuff, basically. Didn't show them around the property, hardly talked to them, and they ended up leaving very quickly, the couple, and they got in their car. The open house was supposed to go till noon. It was 12:45 when they were leaving, and that agent just packed up his stuff, packed up his flag, and got out of there early before it was over. So I don't know, maybe something serious happened. Life happens to all of us, but you got to wonder, is that the norm? And I've heard other situations, other stories where you hear that, and I've met some really amazing agents on the property of villages sides, but I'm just saying there's a big difference in incentive for marketing and selling your home. And just from my experience, I do work with realty executives. We are the top broker, and it is the norm for our agents to do at least 2 open houses a week. And our broker is constantly updating us on, what's information that you can give your buyers walking in. It doesn't matter if they're not moving to the villages for 5 years or 2 years or 2 months, right? What is helpful, useful information? And that's what you're going to get when you walk into, I know my open houses I'll have, a whole spread of things that hopefully is helpful information from, average cost of insurance and different things like that, different villages and rec centers and things like that, that if you are new to the villages, you might not know. So, so that's going to be typical in, an MLS open house, and there's going to be that drive to sell your home. And real quick, so if you're on the buyer's side, so if you are, and I'm going to answer this question because this was brought up by the buyers that I met with the other day. So they are working with another agent, a Villages agent, who again I have a good rapport with. We connect with each other on a lot of deals if we cross over that way, and he is professional. So again, I am not knocking the Villages agents by any means, but he called me up. He said, Joni, I have these buyers. I need, I would love for you to help take care of them. So I met with them, talked about their needs, what's going on, and they were a little bit hesitant to work with me at first because they had heard the rumor, and literally this is what they heard, and this is what they were under the understanding of. If they met with me, they were going to be married to me. They were going to be bound, and they could never leave my side or work with anyone else. And I was like, what is happening? What are you talking about? And they said, we heard about the forms. We heard about the agreements. And I was like, okay, back up. Let's take a minute and talk about this. So yes, there was a whole NAR settlement. I've done some videos on that, and I could talk about that for however long you want. But changes happened last year, and really nothing changed. The only thing that changed was that you need to have an agreement signed with your agent. So if you called me up and said, Joni, can I look at a home? If I'm working with you long term, yes, we would have a buyer broker agreement in place. Maybe it's for 6 months, maybe it's for a year. But if you and I don't know each other, and you don't know how well I'm going to take care of you, or what my work ethic is, or even if you're going to like, hanging out with me, or whatever the case is, we would do a showing agreement. So an MLS Realtor actually is bound by law. They have to have a showing agreement in place. And it protects you as a buyer so that you understand all the ins and outs. You know what that brokerage is going to be compensated. You can stipulate in there how it's going to go down. If you're going to put in an agreement contingent on the seller paying that commission, which by the way is the norm here in the Villages. 99.9%, actually, I'd say for myself personally, 100% of the times the buyer's compensation is taken care of by the seller. So it's always negotiable. We have to negotiate it in. There's certain forms in place. There's a lot of paper trail and back trail that we have to deal with as realtors. But as a buyer, all you need to know is you're going to sign a showing agreement. You're going to say, I'm working with, Joni today from noon until 4 o'clock, and any homes that we see, and you write down the homes that you see, I'm going to be working with her on those homes. So it's not a scary thing. It's not like you're married to your realtor. If you decide that you want to move forward with this realtor, maybe they are hitting it on the head. Maybe they are really focused and helping you find exactly what you're looking for. They have your goals in mind, and hopefully you value their time. And you decide, okay, I want to just do a long-term agreement with you, then that's great. But usually the first few times that I go out with somebody, it's going to be a showing agreement. And if we as realtors don't have that showing agreement in place, it's actually a $500 fee to us. So if we got audited and they said, oh, Joni, you didn't, you were showing your mom this property, and not that they would know she's my mom, but it doesn't matter who it is, they would call you out on it, and you would owe $500. So something to really, really keep in mind. Those forms are important. If you're working with an MLS agent and they did not ask you to sign a showing agreement, and other than an open house, if you're going to see a private showing, if you're doing a private showing, you need to have that signed, and it's going to protect you. So I encourage you to say, hey, by the way, did you forget to, have me sign something? It is important because it's going to matter, right? It's going to matter. You don't want to get to the closing table, or even before that, you don't want to get to negotiations, putting in an offer and be like, oh, I didn't know that you charge 3.5%, or I didn't know about these fees, right? And now you need to work that into the deal. So I hope that helps. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to reach out if you have questions, if you have feedback. And as always, feel free to like, subscribe, and share if you are curious about real estate in the Villages or know someone who is. Have an amazing day, and God bless.